In the Name of Allah, Volume 1, you describe two types of 5%ers. One being a larger NOI, and the other being the counter teaching to the NOI. Placing yourself in the former and the nation of God's mercy in the latter. Please explain. This is from your book.
So indeed. Well, the concept that I was speaking on is that there's different schools of thought, and that's an appendix that's in the Name of Allah, Volume 1, and it's just as such, the 5% schools of thought. Now, I said that there are two basic, to me, philosophies that exist within the 5%, especially nowadays. At one time, I don't think it was like that. I think it was universal, and it was one because everybody agreed on them lessons. I do know that. But today, it's a different story. But I said that if you look at it today, you got two schools of thought. One would be considered an extension of the 120 or the Nation of Islam. And I define what extension was actually. Or I said extend. Like extend is to stretch out or to draw to a certain point, to a large and area, scope, influence, meaning, and effect, etc. Or to widen, broaden, expand, to present for acceptance, offer, accord, grant, to give added bulk or body to a substance. And that's what the 5%ers was when I first came into it. The 5%ers, we didn't teach against Elijah Muhammad. We didn't teach against Master Prophet Muhammad. We taught that just how I opened up that Master Prophet Muhammad, the knowledge, Honorable Elijah Muhammad, the wisdom, and the Father is the understanding. There was knowledge, wisdom, and understanding that they were not at odds with one another, but they was in accord with one another, and that's mathematics, and that's how we would teach it. And at the 5%, that we recognize ourselves as 5%ers of a larger body of people, and that was the civilized people, the Muslims and the Muslim sons. We did not teach that the Muslim was a 10%er. We did not teach, anything derogatory toward people who advocated that the black man was God because of a different nuance that we had. Whereas today, I feel that you got a lot of brothers. I first heard the term Nation of God's and Earth in the 90s. When I first heard it, was introduced to it, the way it was introduced to me is that, the brothers were saying that it's wrong for you to say you're a 5%er. And that's how it came down. We was in Atlanta at the time, and the brothers said that, stop calling yourselves 5%ers, and this allegedly came from our law school, And at the time, we was around Rudy, because everybody that was there at the Law's Garden at the time, you're looking at 1990, 1991, a lot of the brothers from Medina, Mecca, New Jerusalem, and Pilon, and had knowledge of stuff for years. And when we came into it was the 5% or the Nation of Islam, or the 5% Nation of Islam. If you hear Rakim in those days and times, and he's speaking or Robin in his records in 1986 when he came out, you hear him say peace to the Nation of Islam. If you go back to any old plus lessons written by the 5%ers, or any written references about the 5%, you'll see that we refer to ourselves as 5%, the 5% Nation or the 5% Nation of Islam.
Wakil, hold that thought before I go to a commercial break. Now, what I want to do, too, is remind my listeners that my time has changed from 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time to 9 p.m. It's still every Wednesday at blogtalkradio.com/Dr. Bahu Show. But now, instead at 11 p.m., it's 9 p.m. So that's 9 p.m. Eastern Time. But at the same time, we will play the show again at 11, but it's only going to be a recording, so you'll be able to call in, you'll be able to still tune in, you just won't be able to ask any questions. Okay, Pete, I want to go to my next question, then what I'm going to do, I'm going to go to the switchboard, and if there's anything on the inside the chat room, we'll ask those questions. And I kind of need you to kind of make them a little brief. I know a lot of them a couple of them is 2 or 3 questions piled into one, but I need you to kind of make them brief. I want to roll on, and hopefully that everybody can get a chance to ask their questions, okay?
Sure, indeed.
Okay. In your understanding, how does In the Name of Allah Volume 2 differ from Volume 1?
Volume 2, well, if you were to compare the two, like I said, I was, let me try to keep it brief. With Volume 1, I was very careful about introducing any new information because I felt that brothers and sisters would be very critical of it, so I wanted to deal with the information that was already out there that people had already access to, but didn't necessarily were able to compile it all into one comprehensive view and perspective. So, In the Name of Allah, Volume 2, that really goes into like I said, the heavy contributors to the Name of Allah Volume 2 that makes it different was the elders, like ALR, Sister Benice, Queen Mother Dora, Abu Shahid, Ubika, had information from back in the day from Firstborn Prince, and Queen Omala was built on the science of the earth, and La Beals contributed, of course, with his infinite wisdom, as I see it. And so Volume 2 goes really specifically into the early years of the Father Allah that can only be told by his relatives, the early years when he was born and raised up in Danville, Virginia, and how that happened, and his intimate family life as far as his mother and father and his brothers and sister was concerned. Also, it goes into his family life when he came to Harlem, New York, that can only be told from the perspective of his wife, and his sons, and his daughter's perspective, or I should say his grandsons, his granddaughter's perspective. So it gives you a more intimate history there. And it also tells you how he ended up going to the Korean War, specifics leading up to that. And I go into Malcolm X history, real in depth. Before Volume 1, I didn't do that. I go into how the father first came to the temple, how that came about, what was his life inside and outside of the temple, his first students outside of the temple, the elders that he rolled with, the history of the Supreme Mathematics and alphabets. It goes into the first Volume 1 went into the Harlem Six and the Blood Brothers, but Volume 2 goes into the firstborns of Mecca Medina and their relation to the Harlem Six, and also goes into the firstborn Kings, which wasn't really introduced in Volume 1 at all.
Okay, now, hold on, my next one. Yeah, we got to keep it brief, though, Wakil. I mean,
true indeed, God.
you built before, God. We go for hours. I'm long-winded.
True indeed, God. True indeed.
I want to get 90 minutes, and I want to get everybody a chance. A lot of people want to ask you questions, God, and I want you to answer.
Okay.
Now, you wrote an article entitled Self-Styled Wisdom, defining it and supporting the importance of its existence. Briefly define supreme wisdom and swift wisdom, and explain the difference and importance of the three.
You said redefine supreme wisdom and swift wisdom?
Okay, hold on. You wrote an article entitled Self-Styled Wisdom.
Right.
Now, what I need to define is briefly define supreme wisdom and swift wisdom, and explain the difference and importance of the three. That's self-styled wisdom, supreme wisdom, as well as swift wisdom.
Okay. Well,
right?
Right, sure indeed. Well, supreme wisdom, historically speaking, is the science of the lessons that was revealed from the mind of Master Prophet Muhammad as he received it from the 24 scientists and manifested through Honorable Elijah Muhammad, who in turn gave it to us. So the body of knowledge of mathematics or lessons, or Islam as we understand it, is referred to as the supreme wisdom, as the wise ways of the black man. Now, the science of swift wisdom, like I said, I came to the knowledge in the 80s, and in the 80s, it was funny because at that time, a lot of brothers was real swift, meaning it was real fast in the recitation of the lessons, because that's the way we were taught the lessons. Like, you would have to know the lessons at the drop of a dime. And now, mind you, we in high school, or middle school, for that matter, you walk around in the hallway and somebody stopped you at a time. What's the day's mathematics, God? And 1 through 40, or 1 through 36, or 1 through 10, yada, yada, yada. How does it add up? Boom, boom, boom. So you had to be real swift in how you regurgitated that information back, so you could just manifest it on the drop of a dime. But that's what we would call swift wisdom, of being able to go from one aspect of the lesson to the next aspect of the lesson and really impressing people with your speaking skills, And then the last one, you said, what was self-styled wisdom, swift wisdom? Well, self-styled wisdom. Self-styled wisdom is the ability to manifest the knowledge and how you see it according to your understanding. So you may not mimic or parrot another brother, but you got your own self-styled wisdom in the way you speak, in the way you articulate. And at a time, really at one point in time, that was highly respected in the 5% nation, that each man would be able to stand on his own too and manifest and speak for himself and manifest the knowledge to his people as he saw fit, as long as he was able to justify it through the wisdom or make sense out of it through the mathematics, the alphabet, so the 120 lessons, which all would be considered to be the supreme wisdom.